Kleine werknemer.
Kleine bediende die de kraan opendraait.
It's a strange thing to get on a subway and the buildings are there and get off a subway and they're not.
It seemed to happen in the blink of an eye. Around the country, the people who designed and built the symbolic landmark watched helplessly at the unfolding tragedy.
Horror and disbelief, and that's kind of where I am at this moment. I really haven't given much thought to the loss of the work and creativity and sweat and tears that went into building those buildings.
Structural engineer Ron Klemensic is president of the firm that helped construct the World Trade Center in the early 1970s. He heard the news at his home in Seattle.
The alarm had just gone off in our bedroom, and it was time to get up this morning, and my 7-year-old daughter came running in the bedroom saying, "Daddy, Daddy, a plane hit the big building." And I immediately thought, oh my gosh, which one of my buildings has been hit by a plane?
Though shaken by the enormous tragedy and loss of life, Klemensic held on to his confidence. This was, after all, the World Trade Center, one of the great engineering marvels of the century.
Truly amazing. I mean, it was as much as the moon landing, perhaps. To say that it's an engineering miracle is really not hyperbole. It really was.
Finished in 1972, the World Trade Center was once called the most ambitious project since the pyramids. The two 110-story towers were more than 100 feet taller than the reigning skyscraper, the Empire State Building. Nearly 500,000 cubic yards of concrete were poured during construction, enough to build a sidewalk from Manhattan to Washington, D.C. The massive excavation created so much dirt, engineers filled the harbor at the end of the city with it, creating what is now Battery Park City. 16 acres, 10 million square feet, more than 400 businesses, including the financial giants of the global economy. It was an office complex the likes the world had never seen.
Even though I believe that the World Trade Center, in a sense, came closest to a mythological structure, it was still an actual structure that real people lived in. So I think there was always this split between the mythic scale of it and the actuality of, oh, where's the pencil sharpener? You know, who took my stapler?
The Trade Center and the people it sheltered would witness much in the next 30 years. Although the towers were a favorite target of renegade parachutists and wall climbers, the towers also survived much more serious events. A raging fire on the 11th floor in 1975, the blackouts of 1977, even a near miss by an Argentine jet in 1981. Then, in February 1993, the terrorist bombing that killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000. But the World Trade Center held on. With each tragedy, it gained stature somehow. It seemed to represent the best of American determination, coming back tougher, safer, improved.
A building like the World Trade Center, which was really adopted by New Yorkers after the 1993 bombing, really became part of people's sympathetic and empathetic imagination when it was wounded but remained standing. We could then see it, if not as a beloved architectural icon, as certainly as a symbol of ourselves and our resistance and our resilience. So it became possible for us to really, as New Yorkers, I'm not talking about how other people saw it, but as New Yorkers, collectively to say, this is New York. It's tough. It's not going to, it's not going to fall down.
But no one could anticipate the chain of events of September 11th that would ultimately do just that. From the very beginning, the towers were designed to take a beating, from earthquakes to hurricane-force winds. They were even capable of withstanding the most unthinkable of disasters. But a calculated suicide attack by jetliners fully loaded with fuel, the 2 large commercial aircraft hit the towers at their most vulnerable point, midsection. That was beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Even so, the initial impact was not enough to collapse the towers. They would stand for more than an hour and a half.
The structural system in that building has enough capacity and enough redundancy so that the load in the building was carried by some of the other columns. And so that's why it didn't collapse initially.
But the plane's fuel created intense fireballs in both towers. The steel supports gradually, unstoppably, were heated to the melting point. Under the enormous weight of the upper floors, the weakened supports finally gave way.
One floor falls, and it falls on a floor below, and that floor then is overstressed and floors on the floor below that, and the effect just continues on until the building's sitting on the ground in a stack of cards, if you will.
The towers, it seemed, were an indelible image even from space, their unmistakable outline in every picture of New York. Now those ghostly images stand for something more. In the haunting words of the late Yamasaki, the chief architect of the towers, the World Trade Center is a living symbol of man's dedication to world peace, his belief in cooperation of men, and through cooperation, his ability to find greatness. A vision of humanity at its best, now crumbled like the twin pillars of security and freedom so precious to all Americans. The question is, will we ever be able to put them back together again?
I'm Hoda Kotb. Thanks for joining us.
We leave you tonight with lasting images of the attack on America.
For the latest science news, visit our website at discovery.com. Deadline Discovery is a production of the Discovery Channel and Dateline NBC.